United Lutheran Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast, conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe. Welcome to the Seminary Explores. I'm Katie Giebenheim. My guest is James McCarthy, Honolulu-based singer-songwriter and teaching artist. He is the current artist-in-residence at the Gettysburg National Military Park. James holds a master's in education from Harvard and an MFA in acting from University of Hawaii at Manoa. James, welcome to the Seminary Explorers.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, why don't you tell us something about what intrigued you about the site of the Gettysburg battlefield for a residency?
That pretty much goes back to when I was a kid, and I was just interested in the Civil War, and of course Gettysburg's the closest thing I had to. I was growing up in Norristown, so I grew up in Norristown, PA, which for those that don't know is 20 miles west of Philly, so 100 miles from here. And then the year after my mother passed, my dad and I came out here, and what happened is often happened when he and I were at a park, or we just started driving around starting at about 12:30, and we didn't stop until 7, and we didn't eat. So in that time period, on that visit, I stood at the high water mark and looked across, towards the line of where Pickett's charge would be, and was completely moved. It's kind of like what Ken Burns said, that when you go to the sites in the same climatic conditions, you feel the spirit of what happened. So that happened, and then it was some years until I suddenly had this inspiration to write a song. I've been doing a lot of work in the Irish American experience, so I wrote a song from the point of view of an Irish American soldier on the Union side, writing about the Confederate warriors, since that's a kind of a theme in many traditional societies, but definitely in Celtic poetry and legend. So I wrote that song, and then it's been with me, and I heard about the fellowship, and
it clicked.
and I wrote them. I submitted that and a few other things, and then it happened. So it's been really fascinating. I think of Gettysburg as the original rabbit hole. Like where you find one thing you're interested in, you start following up the thread, and it opens up into this whole other wealth of information. There's such a crossroads of experiences and anecdotes and human endeavor.
And you're an actor, you're a musician, you're a songwriter, a teacher, a director, a host, a number of other things too, but in all of these ways, you're essentially a storyteller. You just have sort of many weapons at your disposal, right?
That's a good way to say it. In fact, storytelling, like being a professional storyteller, is a way that you can use acting, especially in a place like Hawaii, where if you're good in a swimsuit and you're really good in the water, you'll get on Hawaii Five-0, but the other roles, there's not much of that. But yeah, I think about that. It's a nexus. There's a crossroads of what it is that I do as a teacher, musician, actor, storyteller, writer, that all those are at the heart about voice or story. So those are all really important to me.
So, and you work with, what age group do you work with when you're teaching usually?
Pretty much any age group. As the tools that we've developed, they're called engagement strategies, are mostly based in drama, but some are in music or in visual arts. The money is in K-5.
Okay.
There's a steady fund of money in Hawaii, and that's a really strong group of teaching artists, one of the strongest in the country. A lot of support from Kennedy Center.
Wow.
Connections to, I was just at the International Teaching Artists Conference at Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center. I was there for 4 days with 300 people from 30 different countries.
Fantastic.
It was very inspiring. So the teaching artist realm in other countries kind of means other things. So I work with K-5, with pretty much every grade level and most aspects of the curriculum. Sometimes math sometimes things you just have to do. You just have to drill. There's no other way to do it for the young mind. But lots of applications. Lots of stories.
You also you have many sort of roles. So you have your teacher role, and you also have been a venue host and have been in a band. Could you tell us a bit about those other hats you wear?
Sure. That when I was starting as a musician in Hawaii and working as a musician in Hawaii, there were not many venues. In fact, there weren't any consistent venues for songwriters to hone their craft. And I come out of the very independent, very lively Philadelphia music scene and the Boston and Cambridge music scene, both of which have lots of opportunities for that. Actually, Cambridge is behind. Well, no, they're both about the same, but it's a little more competitive in Boston, and Philadelphia is very eclectic and very supportive, very democratic. Cradle of liberty kind of thing. So I started something called True Tone Songwriters Concert Series, which started at a art center that I helped to start, and then we went to a bar for 2 years, and then we were at kind of a punk venue for 3 years.
Was that on Oahu?
On Oahu, yeah, all in Chinatown, downtown, what's now known as the Arts District. And I was part of that whole experience. So the True Tone is kind of part of my cultural entrepreneurial work. And out of that grew, actually not out of that just playing Irish music in the very few Irish bars there are. Started an Irish band, electric Irish band, with what turned out to be some of the best musicians in the city. And it became like a destination for about 10 years. The band was called Doolin Rakes. The first word is Doolin, not like we're fighting each other, although that happened too. Doolin Rakes, and Doolin is a respect for the town of Doolin, small town in County Clare that had held on to its traditional music roots and became part of the fertile ground for the Celtic Renaissance in the 70s.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
While you've been in Gettysburg, you're about 3/4 of the way into your residency time here. Have there been, an example of an experience or something that you've seen or heard that surprised you or was beyond what you expected before coming here? Do you have an example of something?
Well, here's one small story. I knew one of the songs I'll be doing tomorrow. I'll be presenting at the Visitor Center. Tomorrow's my public presentation, 10 to 1. They'll just be like, short, like 15 or 20 minute sets, break to connect with people, and then another. One of the songs I'll be doing is called, interestingly enough, Fields of Gettysburg, by a friend of mine who had an ancestor great-grandfather who crossed the wall with Armistead and survived. Lived to tell about it. So I knew about Armistead, and I knew about Hancock because I'm from Hancock's hometown, Norristown, Pennsylvania. But I didn't know that they were close friends, and I didn't know that Armistead died almost within sight of where Hancock was, or that I was told a moving story about when they were at a dinner party shortly before the war broke out, and how the entire gathering knew about their friendship and about what was about to happen, and how the evening, as it went on, became quieter and quieter till they said farewell. So that was a surprising, touching, really, for me. The other part that emerged, which I had thought about a little bit, but now it's become it's much more fleshed out now in terms of the African American experience in Gettysburg, and African experience of any African American person during that whole invasion campaign. And the stories of, abduction and being sent back to slavery, and how that kept on, and people who stayed, and then the diversity of African American experience here. Even as somebody who's tried to stay aware of that, I didn't realize how much was hidden, how much was unknown.
Yeah.
I just spoke this morning with Ranger John Hortak, who's been looking into that, and it was, again, I mean, this is only an hour or two ago. Again, it's exponentially deeper, exponentially more relevant. So I'm really inspired, and challenged, I think, to bring that to life.
And when you were putting your proposal together, your concept for how you wanted to approach this residency, what did you have in mind, or what was the way that you wanted to sort of go into it?
Well, you always need to have a tag. You can't just say, hey, I've done all this other stuff. So,
right.
But I really did think that one aspect of it is I have on my CD, most of the songs are on there. I have a CD called Now's the New Later, and in that there's a evolving song cycle about the Irish American experience. It starts with the coffin ships and the quarantines that happened at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River when they got there, and then it comes to Gettysburg, and then part of it's about a policeman at 9/11, and a few other things. A song about whiskey, because that's required if you're going to be an Irish American.
It's a must.
Yeah, it's fairly pivotal. So one thought was to add something to that, and that the proposal was that a Confederate soldier of Irish descent is in the retreat in Lee's army and is wounded, and is recalling a song called Carrickfergus and singing to his love, who he may not see again, or his love for his love and loneliness for Ireland. So that was one arc. The other arc was to think about something that was to write about McPherson's Ridge. In fact, I sort of had a little bit fleshed out that would be about Marcus Allen, who fired the first shot. But then that was a little hard to research, just because of that's outside the battlefield, and I like to go to a place and to really feel what it's like and do some place-based composition. So that's what I've been doing a lot, is just turn on the recorder and play at a particular place, and then take that and then flesh it out. So I have many sketches. So that was also part of it. So
that's like in a private house, right? So that's why you didn't really have as much access to.
Yeah,
okay.
It's basically right by Route 30, and you have to be you have to scramble up a bank, take a quick picture, and then leave. You can't really hang out there.
Yeah.
So those were the thoughts. But I didn't know enough to know what I didn't know about the African American experience. And also, sometimes you're drawn by your heart.
Sure.
So, and I love this thing that Joshua Chamberlain said: we are heart drawn to see on great fields where great things were done for us, and by whom. And he talks about connecting with the vision place of souls. Like this guy was a very deep human being, as well as being a man of his times, so you're heart drawn to something. And one of the things I was heart drawn to was, what about the horses? Because of that famous picture at the Trossel farm, where out of 88 horses, at the end of the day there were 8, because the infantry targeted them, because they were critical to nearly every aspect of the army at that point. And I was thinking, wow, that's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask. But then, as you read about it, that's what they were looking for when they were foraging. It was high on the list. Is to get horses, keep the supply of horses going, keep them fresh, because nothing moved if they didn't. So then staying in the Klingel house, which for folks that don't know is in the center of the battlefield pretty much, the horse trail goes right behind there, so I'm seeing horses every day.
So that's a motif for
you.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. In fact, I wrote a song. That's one of the songs that's 70% of the way there.
Very good. Well, and are you prepared to sing a song for us?
Sure.
That would be great. Before you do, out of sheer curiosity, could you tell us about the Komodo dragon welcoming celebration at the Honolulu Zoo? I mean, you have done so many projects and so many things, and I've just got to know about this.
Well, they have like hula dancers, and they put a lei around their neck, and then we have you can't get
wrong.
You get wrong, right? So, I had worked at the zoo. I helped to start to develop their education program with snoozes in the zoo, because Hawaii's one of the only places in the United States that you can have a tropical zoo.
Sure.
So
okay.
That would be after hours at night. So we were doing stories already, and then somebody said I knew the Komodo dragons were there.
Yeah.
But they had to be kept in isolation for I think a year and a half while they acclimated and made sure it was going to be okay, and they built the exhibit. So then they said, well, we're going to have this welcoming celebration. We're going to open the exhibit. We're going to invite, friends of the zoo to come and be the first ones to see them when they come out. And would you do an hour or so performance about Komodo dragons?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, you go like, well, what do I know about Komodo dragons? Well, let's find out. So this is sometimes a little bit like talking to rangers.
Okay.
When you talk to a ranger and ask them a question, you will get, they are all so versed. Not just rangers, I would say guides more than rangers.
Okay.
They are so versed, and they all have their areas of personal interest and expertise, that it's a challenge to pull out the threads that are going to really stand out and make sense to people. It is. It's hard to stop yourself. So we needed a little more information, and I wouldn't say the web was really that reliable or that at that time. So what we had was the zoo staff, the keepers, and we went to talk to the head of one of the departments, who was at that time famously not interested in education, and he said to us, well, I really don't, because he thought we would anthropomorphize. So he said, I really don't have anything for you. I was like, well, what about the babies? So it turns out, shall we go for it? Okay. So it turns out, Komodo dragon mothers lay the eggs inside of a burrow. Okay. I'm not really clear if it's a communal burrow, but they're definitely underground, and there's a little shelf in there for the eggs, and they stay with the eggs like many animal mothers do, living off their own body resources, until 36 to 48 hours before the eggs hatch, and then they leave. And the reason they leave is because at between 36 to 48 hours, the male Komodo dragons, the full-grown male Komodo dragons, start hanging out at the entrances to the burrows. When the babies hatch, the first thing they do is run as fast as they can to the nearest tree, because the grown males are going to try to eat them.
Oh, jeez.
So the babies climb all the way up in the tree, up to the highest branches where the big daddies can't climb. They'll break the branches, and up there they start eating the smallest insect and larvae and stuff. And then when they gain weight, they come down and they eat, birds, and they come down and they start eating. And then when they can handle being with the full-grown males, then they come down to the ground.
Oh my goodness.
And this is all instinctual. And I was like, oh yeah, that's boring. We can't use that. So and then you talk. So we flushed. We took a traditional story and adapted it. This I was working with my friend Jeff Gear, who's a storyteller but a visual artist. So we would work together, and also very physical. And then you start talking about Komodo dragons, and it gets pretty graphic. So there's a lot of things about them that make them completely fascinating, besides just that they're large.
And literally born to run, right?
And they're literally, yeah, right. So, like, that would be good.
I just had Bruce Springsteen
yeah.
in the background.
Let's tell the boss about that. I
Right.
bet he would go for that.
Wow.
Love that guy. And then they have this interesting thing. It was like they don't need to. People think of that like they're poisonous. They're not poisonous. They're just so incredibly virulent. Their bacteria is so incredibly virulent. If a human gets bit by one, but it's on an island in the humongous Indonesian archipelago. If they don't get severe antibiotics within 24 hours, there's no chance.
Okay.
So all they have to do is bite a goat or whatever it is that they eat, and then they just relax. And then they just follow it because they know that within a certain amount of time, the bacteria is going to do the trick. But if they bite each other, their saliva heals the wound.
Okay.
So medicine, medical science is very interested in how can that be, right?
Well,
So-
I would love to hear one of your songs. That would
Okay.
be a wonderful way to, a wonderful end of the conversation.
I'd be glad to. I think I'm going to do a cappella, though.
Okay.
Because this is an a cappella tune. It's written from the point of view of an Irish soldier at Pickett's Charge,
Okay.
writing about Pickett's Charge. For 2 days shot and sword and steel had fed the martial beast, but on the third it thirsted still as the sun streaked red the east. We knew that we would fight them, but we never would have guessed how many lay before us when the sun died in the west. In the fields of Pennsylvania, where the land is rich and good, death drew a drink like none before on that third day of blood. From Carolina, Tennessee, and the Old Dominion state, they shouldered up their weapons, boys, and sealed their nation's fate. Fly all fear and trepidation, dim misgivings rise and go. Come courage and surround us as we face the grim-eyed foe. In the fields of Pennsylvania, where the golden flowers grow. Oh, the air was still and heavy, and no bird was heard to call. The sun flung down its hammer without mercy on us all. Everyone among us was sweltering in our sleeves as they set out across the field like wheat waiting to be sheaved. Oh, the greycoats moved in endless lines like tides across the sands. We waited for our orders with our rifles in our hands. Our cannons tossed them cruelly like things of bone and rag. Their comrades died on every side. Their courage never lagged. Fly all fear and trepidation, dim misgivings rise and go. Come courage and surround us as we face the grim-eyed foe. In the fields of Pennsylvania, where the golden flowers grow. We knew it as they knew it. They were marching into hell, and as one man they broke their ranks and screamed their rebel yell. Our cannon fire, it split the earth, the gunfire cracked the sky, and like wheat fields at the harvest, they lay down in rows to die. Some flooded up across the stones and grabbed us by our coats. They threw down shot and bayonet and grappled for our throats. But we were all the man for them, and so at last prevailed. We pushed them back across the wall. Lee's mighty stroke had failed. Fly all fear and trepidation, dim misgivings rise and go. Come courage and surround us as we face the grim-eyed foe. In the fields of Pennsylvania, where the golden flowers grow. And as we counted up our dead, I stopped to watch them go. Wounded, worn, and weary, our fierce, relentless foe. I felt a great elation that we had withstood their blow, but I knew that but for fortune's fling, I too might that way go. Oh, you sing of Fanyanborough and Coqueland, the brave heroes, but courage and blind loyalty the world may never know. As those young men from the Southland who left their blood to flow in the fields of Pennsylvania, where the golden flowers grow. Fly all fear and trepidation, dim misgivings rise and go. Come courage and surround us as we face the grim-eyed foe in the fields of Pennsylvania, where the golden flowers grow.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. You've been listening to The Seminary Explores. I'm Katie Giebenheim. My guest has been singer-songwriter James McCarthy, an artist in the National Park on the Gettysburg battlefield. Learn more about his teaching at jamesbmccarthy.wordpress.com and about his music at jamesbmccarthy.com. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explores, a production of United Lutheran Seminary with campuses in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We invite you to visit our website at unitedlutheranseminary.edu. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of United Lutheran Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.